on the stock, and if at all it breaches 380, better to get out and get into some consumption story which primarily is not affected so much by the inflationary pressures. So I would recommend that you can probably get into a Colgate stock like a Colgate Palmolive, which is a kind of an essential, or maybe the likes of Harrison Mallya, the tea coffee stock. So I would love to stay with commodities and essentials rather than being with software. So better to have a stop loss and exit when the stop loss hits, or you have to wait for a longer time.
This one is coming from Shanmuga Sundaram. He's saying that he has 20 shares of Bajaj Finance purchased at a level of 6,200 rupees per share. Wants to know whether he can add some more for a period of 1 year. What's your take, Kunal? Do you think now is the right time to look at Bajaj Finance?
I would say yes, definitely. I think the stock has now come back towards a good support point. The correction has been quite sharp. In the last 1.5 odd month, the stock has corrected from 7,500 to 5,500. It's very rare that you see a quality stock like Bajaj Finance getting into this kind of a 25-30% correction in a very short span of time. So purely in that regards, and the kind of quality the stock has exhibited over the last so many years and over the last decades, I believe that it's a good buy at current zone, purely in terms of risk reward.
The next question is coming in from Mr. Parsi, and he's asking about Bharat Dynamics. It's currently trading at 767, up quite significantly in trade today, up as much as 6.4%. Vijay, the question is, he's willing to do an SIP on an ongoing basis into this particular stock. He's wondering whether these are levels to start at.
Well, yes, I think that the stocks like BDL, BEL, HAL, so these are good stocks to invest in over a period of time. Primarily defense focused, and I think that with the war going on, smaller countries will look at India and Indian companies to source their material from India, and India also wants to become a big defense hub. 3 days ago, Rajnath Singh, who's the defense minister, who said that we are going to have a very large shipping base in India, and we are going to make shipbuilding a core strength of Indian companies. So stocks like Garden Reach, stocks like Cochin Shipyard, these have been doing Masdoc. Masdoc has been doing well. So I think that staying with defense companies is also a good strategy. And again, inflation does not matter if at all you are in defense. So if somebody has to source arms, ammunition, and stuff related to defense, they would not worry about the money. So I think that defense companies are a good bet in such markets.
All right. The next one that I have is coming in from Natarajan Ramesh, and he's saying that he's holding on to 200 shares of LNT Tech, purchased at a price of 4,030 rupees per share. He's saying that his horizon is the next 2 years, and he wants to know whether it will be a profitable buy or no. Kunal, I'll come to you on this one. LNT Tech is the stock that Natarajan has actually purchased. Wants to know whether it will be profitable buy in the next 2 years. We've seen what has been happening with the IT sector. Do you see any sort of a rebound in this one?
Well, I'm not sure if he's asking about profitable in terms of the numbers, but I think if it's about profitable in terms of the returns, then I would definitely believe so, that from current levels. So you have to look at it in this way, that these what have these IT stocks done in the last 5-6 months? They have corrected more than 75 to 80% of the gains these stocks have shown in 2021. So the entire year when the stocks have rallied, they've managed to retrace the gains, 75% of their gains in the entire year. So that's a substantial amount of retracement for these stocks. Of course, with price corrections, you will have negative news flows and events which could shape up into the stock prices. But then you have to look out for these kind of opportunities where you can look to buy, look out for quality stocks in that regards, and have a time horizon of 1 to 2 years for these stocks to rebound and give you profitable returns. So I think if it's in that criteria, I would definitely suggest a buy. I would also suggest that rather than just looking at L&T Technology Services, you should also look at large cap names, something like Infosys, TCS, or HCL Tech. I think these stocks are also placed extremely well from the IT pack overall.
And that's, I think, Kunal, largely on account of the recent drop that we've seen, particularly in yesterday's session when the Nifty IT dropped about 5.7%. But let's talk about NMDC next. Kunal, this one's coming for you. We've got a viewer, Mohammed, who's asking about the next 6 months. He's been holding for 15 months so far, and I think he's entered at 4 different levels. He says that his average buy price is about 133. What should he do with this for the next 6 months, though?
I think it's a good price where you've bought, and if you've averaged, I'm sensing that you've averaged at every opportunity of dip or correction into the stock price. So that's a very good strategy which you have done over the last 15 months of your holding period for NMDC. My sense is that these commodity baskets now, even though there is a lot of news flow negative, across the commodities, but then these stocks and specifically NMDC has shown a lot of resilience. The stock has not even corrected back towards its December lows of 125, 126 for itself. So that itself tells you that even in this heat of the market correction in last 1 month, the stocks have protected their previous major lows. Any kind of a rebound would lead to a very strong upside for these stocks. So I would suggest to hold on. Near-term wise, I would expect a target of at least 175 to 180, provided the market gets into a slight recovery mode. So if you have a risk appetite and time horizon, say for the next 6 months to 1 year, I would suggest a hold.
Okay, this next one is coming from Vishal. He's writing to us from Dubai, and this one is for you, Vijay. He's asking about Century Ply. He's looking to invest in this one for the longer term, and he wants to know whether it makes sense to enter right now. What's your take on Century Ply on fundamentals? Do you think it's a strong company for one to look at for the longer term?
Well, I think that Century Ply is one of the better companies in the entire plywood space. We've got companies like Green Ply and all, which do very well. The construction activity has actually either slowed down or stopped in certain areas because the kind of inflation pressures and the cost pressures, many of the builders have stopped, constructions, and this is really painful. So most of the the products which Century Ply makes is generally into which goes into domestic construction. So I think that it would take some time, and inflation pressures would not allow the company to go, to show any fireworks. So I would suggest that if somebody wants to buy, they need to have a huge amount of patience. Although in charts also the stock looks very good, but I think that it would take some time before it starts moving up. And once it does, I think that if somebody holds with 1.5 years perspective, it has the potential of going up to 730, 740. So it is a buy on dips, definitely, but again would require patience, as inflationary pressures are going to trouble a lot of companies and balance sheets.
The next question is from Prashant, and he's asking about RCF, Rashtriya Chemical Fertilizers. This one's for you, Kunal. He's bought 1,000 shares at levels of 99.50, and he's asking for the short-term technical view on the chart.
Extremely bullish on RCF. In fact, a few days back also I had given a buy call on the stock. My sense is that these fertilizer stocks, they're going through a big change of trend for themselves. So names like Chambal Fertilizers, Coromandel, of course, they also have presence in the F&O segment. So that's also helping the trend quality for these stocks. But even for RCF, I'm extremely bullish. And I think with a time horizon of maybe another 6 months odd, I would expect 120 odd as a target for RCF. So if you bought at recent prices, I would definitely suggest a hold.
A lot of questions actually pouring in, especially for the IT sector. And another tricky one for you, Kunal, and this one is from Mithali. She's writing to us from West Bengal, and she's asking till which level can TCS slide? What's the level that you see the TCS can hit on the downside? And also she wants to know whether it makes sense to invest in a textile name like Lux Industries.
Again, very difficult to anticipate when is the correction going to halt. But then I think when you looking at large cap names, so I would look at it comparatively. That look at where the Nifty IT index is. The Nifty IT index has shed, I think, 23%, 25% on a YTD basis. TCS is down just about 11.5%. Now that itself tells you the outperformance of TCS with respect to the entire IT pack. Now, if you're expecting that the IT index would bottom out, then I believe TCS would be one of the first stocks to actually bottom out and actually start that leadership rally on the upside. So the degree of price or performance itself is indicating that TCS can be one of the star performers going forward. Now, when you're into such kind of a zone, it becomes very difficult to anticipate the exact lows for stock prices. But I think it's better that you have a strategy of buy on dip so that you can at least try and have a buy price which is closer to the lower point of the ranges for stock prices like TCS. On Lux Industries, on the other hand, I would suggest an avoid, at least as of now. I think there are better stocks, than Lux Industries, which are looking far attractive, from the similar kind of a space. I think something like Dollar, for example, has been holding out at 500 mark for itself. It's been trading above its 200-day moving average recently, I think 1 to 2 years for itself. So I would prefer Dollar instead of Lux.
Kunal, I'm going to read this verbatim because I think a lot of our viewers have similar thoughts. Hi Alex, crazy market. Is the bottom on the index done and or will we head towards 15,500 next week?
I think I would probably sense, and if I have to give a sort of a bold view, I would expect that the markets would have now 15,700. It's been a multiple support. So what I pointed out in Chart Busters today was the chart on Nifty 50. And the last 7 trading sessions, we've had 4 attempts towards 15,700. We could not break that 15,700 mark. And I think this week, midweek, we had seen a bounce. Today, we have seen a bounce, ferocious bounce on the Nifty. So that goes to show that the bull power is coming back from those 15,700 mark. Now, when you're into this kind of a structure, we expect that the markets would gain more. So the probability of the indices going up higher is much, is much higher at current juncture than what it was maybe in a few trading sessions back, because we've now established a strong support at 15,700 mark. So to answer it in one line, I would put my neck out and say that probably the markets would get into a decent rally mode over the next 1 week.
Right, and with that, let's kickstart with the rapid fire then. And the first one that I have is from Indumati, and she wants to know whether MRPL is a good long-term bet. What's your take, Vijay? What's your take on this, Vijay?
Well, I think the stock has shot quite a bit from almost 40 rupees to 92, and it's very dangerous because it's too much above 50 TM. Say that avoid the company Petro.
Okay, I didn't quite catch that. I hope that the audio issue gets sorted. We've got Colonel Ghorpade, who is a retired army officer writing in from Bengaluru. He's holding Lupin, Vijay, at levels of 1,000 since 2015. He's asking if we should continue holding.
Well, I think that there are pressures on the stock. I've went a stop loss of 630 and exit.
I think we have a major audio issue with Vijay's audio, but Kunal, this one is for you. This one is for Malta and asking about Poonawalla Finance versus Bajaj Finance. Which one is a better pick for the next 1 year?
So I think it's Bajaj Finance hands down. The stock correcting back towards the 5,500 mark as well makes it very attractive.
Okay, Kunal, back to you. Ambuja Cement at levels of 381.45. We've got Rajeshwari who's asking for a short-term target.
See, I think I would suggest that if you can average it out at current levels would be better. You can bring your cost price towards 370, 372 and then wait out for just another couple of months. I would expect 385, 400 as a target for Ambuja.
Okay, Mr. Dasaradi wants to know that can he continue to hold on to Tata Steel long products going ahead? 800 rupees is his buy price. He wants to know whether he should hold or average. Vijay?
I think definitely hold, but a stop loss of 620 is recommended on Tata Steel long.
Okay.
I'm sure that you're talking about Tata Steel long.
Very quickly, IRCTC, would you hold or not in your portfolio, Vijay? Very quickly.
Well, I think that at these levels, I would hold it with a stop loss of 610 because there might be some kind of surprise left, but 610 is
Right. With that, we come to the end of the rapid fire. Thank you so much, Kunal, as well as Vijay, for joining us on the show and resolving all the viewer queries. But right now, we need to go to the management of Equitas Small Finance Bank. We have Mr. P.N. Vasudevan, who's the MD and CEO of Equitas Small Finance Bank, joining us on the show. Good morning, Mr. Vasudevan. Thank you so much for joining us on ET9. Firstly, is there any specific timeline that you're looking at with regards to this new succession plan that is being undertaken at Equitas Small Finance Bank? How quickly will you be hunting for a new successor?
From a succession process, we have just initiated it yesterday. I informed the board yesterday, and the board has decided to form a search committee. So the search committee will be formed, shortly, and the search committee will then start the process of identifying and looking out for potential candidates. There is no timeline. We have not put a timeline around it. Neither me nor the board, we have not put a timeline around it, because we don't want to put any kind of pressure on ourselves in the entire process. So, the purpose for which I want to leave, that I have put that out in my letter. There's so much that we believe we can do to the society, and we really, as a family, we want to focus on that and do a lot of things which can help a lot of people out there who are not as privileged as you and me, right? But I can do it day after tomorrow instead of tomorrow, so there's no issue with that. So we are not putting a timeline around the whole process. We don't want to make a mistake. We are very clear that we can take a few more months if required, but not make a mistake of getting a wrong person in place. And so there is no timeline as such. And whatever time it takes, we will go through it and get the right candidate into the bank at that point in time.
Will that right candidate, Mr. Vasudevan, be an external candidate, or are you looking internally for a replacement or for a successor? And apart from the position at the helm, are there any other specific gaps in the bank's management that you're looking to plug?
So, we have a very strong management team, and so there is no gap as such in terms of any particular skill set in the bank at this point in time. So that way we have no particular skill set which we desperately need, which we will try to fill in through this process. Such a thing does not exist. So I think we are pretty very comfortable in terms of the overall management capability and bandwidth that we have currently. And as you may know, in the last board meeting, the board had decided to elevate two of my colleagues as whole-time directors, and of course that is subject to approval from both shareholders and RBI. Subject to that, the board has decided to elevate two of my colleagues. And both of them again come with very, very strong experience in both the banking and lending space. And so we believe that we have a very capable team in place, and there's no particular gap that we need to fill up. So it's basically the successor that we need to identify and put in place.
Right, Mr. Vasudevan, so your tenure will be ending soon at Equitas Small Finance Bank, and you will stay on as the MD and CEO till the transition is actually complete. So could you quantify exactly how long will that take? Also, RBI notified earlier no concerns from RBI with regards to this particular change of guard?
So my tenure, my current tenure ends on 23rd of July 2022. That is this year, July 23rd. So a few months back, the board had approved my extension for a 3 more year period, and we had applied to RBI for a regulatory approval for a 3-year extension, which is currently under process. But yesterday in the board meeting, when we had discussed about this particular transition aspect, the board then, in view of this transition process in place, the board has decided to go back to RBI and ask for a 1-year extension for my tenure from 23rd July. So basis that decision, we should be shortly applying to RBI for a 1-year extension in place of the 3-year extension that we had applied some time back. So that is the first part of it. The second question that you asked me was whether the regulators have been informed about this whole transition, succession transition process. Of course, yes, we have been in touch with the regulators, and we have duly kept them informed of the entire process.
What about after you vacate the post of MD and Chief Executive Officer? Will you remain as part of the board going forward?
So on that particular aspect, yesterday the board had also discussed and said that they will be happy to, have me continuing in some capacity or the other to be associated with the bank, subject, of course, to the then regulatory guidelines which may be prevailing at that point in time. So, from my side, of course, I'll be very, very happy, very keen to have any kind of association with Equitas. After all, Equitas is it's a bit like my own baby. So if there's any chance and any opportunity to remain associated with Equitas, I'll be more than happy to remain connected to Equitas. But it's again subject to whatever be the regulatory framework that may prevail at that point in time.
Mr. Vasudevan, definitely this news has not gone down with the investors. If you look at what's happened to the stock price today, how should stakeholders actually look at this particular move that's come about? No doubt most of us have been surprised by this. Also, how should stakeholders look at your stake in the entity?
So from a different stakeholder perspective, I see Equitas is a Latin word. Equitas means equitable, which means being fair and transparent. So right from 2007, when we started Equitas as a microfinance company till today, Equitas has been always run on very high governance standards, absolutely fair and totally transparent to everybody that we deal with, all our stakeholders, be it our customers, be it our employees, be it our investors, be it our regulators, be it the media, be it anybody. We always try to run our operations in the most fair and most transparent manner possible for all our stakeholders. So I think that, I mean, my personal view, I mean, I cannot say what my stakeholders will be thinking, but from our perspective, from my personal perspective, I'm really believing that all our stakeholders will have a very high level of comfort with the way we have run the bank so far. I don't think we have ever had even a single person raise their finger or point their finger at us on any kind of a governance issue. And it will never arise. It will never arise because that governance value system is something which runs deep in the bank, not just me. It's not just me who is holding the flag in the bank on this kind of aspects. It's something running right down to the last 18,000th person in the bank. And so I think my belief, my feeling is that our stakeholders and our investors and every other stakeholder.
No, that's a fair point. But you have to admit, Mr. Vasudevan, that this leadership change issue creates a bit of a regulatory overhang. The question I think a few people are asking is whether this impacts the bank's aspirations for a universal banking license and a merger in the future. And the other question, of course, is will you continue to serve on the board till that transition to a universal bank takes place?
So, technically we have completed 5 years. So technically we are qualified to apply. But, we have this regulatory compliance requirement to be still met, which is the merger of the holdco with the bank. So that's still pending. And, that's under work. And we have got the NOC from RBI recently, which was published. And we are now awaiting SEBI approval shortly. There's 2 stock exchanges. We understand they have already cleared it and sent it to SEBI. So we are hoping to get the SEBI approval soon. And then the NCLT and shareholder approval following that. So that process is on. And for applying for the universal bank license, this regulatory compliance is something that we need to complete. And we need to just complete and get that behind us. So we are working hard to try and get it done as quickly as we can. And we will continue to be in touch with the regulators. And as soon as we get a comfort from them that, yes, we can apply, we should definitely apply. And whether I will continue to remain on the board till the universal bank license comes, again, it's a little far into the future. So at this point, it's difficult to start speculating or talking about that. Let's just hope that we can fast forward and get all these approvals in time, as quickly as we can.
Hope so for the same, Mr. Vasudevan, but have you actually kind of taken note of any timeline for this particular merger?
So we believe that, all the process do take some time normally. So we believe that by March 23, we should have completed the merger. But let's see, we will try and push it even faster if we can.
All right, Mr. Vasudevan, thank you so much for joining us on the show, talking about your plans going ahead. As well as what's in store for Equitas Small Finance Bank. And that was Mr. P.N. Vasudevan, who is currently the MD and CEO of Equitas Small Finance Bank. Remember that they